Hello and welcome to another Demon 212 Dreamcast review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at DUX version 1.5, which if you've never played it before, it's a shoot 'em up. I've never played DUX 1, so I can't go into depth as to what's different between 1 and 1.5. I've even tried finding a list of things because I knew there was going to be some things different, and the list just doesn't seem to be out there. So I'm going to try my best to basically explain to you the whole point of it. DUX 1 was released a long time ago, and the whole point was it was one of the first indie games I believe to come out for the Dreamcast, and it was pretty basic and there was some things that people didn't like about it. So when it came time to revisit DUX, they decided to do a remake called Redux. But for Redux, they released it as a Kickstarter thing, and you had to pay into Kickstarter to get it, and then thankfully they changed that to anyone could order it from their website as long as it was still in stock, which is what I ended up doing because I found about the Kickstarter thing about 4 months after it ended. And to appease fans while they were waiting for Redux, they released DUX 1.5. Now, DUX 1.5 didn't actually come to people who pre-ordered the 2-pack until Redux came out, which is why I'm only just reviewing this now. I know people who've had this for, well, quite a few months, and I've only just got my hands on it because Redux has only just came out. I will be doing the review of that soon, and it's pretty much going to be very similar to this because, as I see it, it is a remake. It's quite frankly confusing why they've bothered even making DUX 1.5, because Redux isn't DUX 2, and it is very much a remake. So if anything, if DUX is 1.0 and then this is 1.5, then Redux is 1.75, if you catch my drift, because it's not enough of a difference for me to call it a sequel, because it's not a sequel, and they've never came out and tried to make it a sequel or anything. That every interview I ever said was them saying, yeah, it's just a reimagining, it's a remake, we're basically revisiting it, and we're gonna update the graphics, the music, and the gameplay and things, but it is still going to be DUX. And that is exactly what they did. So it now makes me wonder, when I've played it, where the new things have gone. Because there was also, for a long time, quite a lot of people said, well, this is actually going to be the first one to have co-op, and Redux doesn't have any form of multiplayer at all. I had also heard that Redux would have a second ship with different abilities, and if it does, I can't find it at all. So I'd therefore say that it doesn't have it. And it was also going to have a 7th stage, and again, if it does, I can't find it. It appears to only have 6 stages, the same as this. It's a 1-player, 1-ship, 6-stage game, both DUX and Redux. So then it makes me wonder, is Redux actually going to be DUX 1.875? Is that version going to come out at some point where it gives you the extra stage, the extra ship, and the ability to play co-op? And if so, I'll be a little bit annoyed because, well, I wouldn't be as annoyed as the people who've bought every single version of it, but it would be a little bit annoying to buy 2 versions of the same game and then to finally get the one that they kind of promised us to begin with. It almost makes me wonder what the hell's happened. Did they hit a stumbling block? Did they decide to be lazy? I don't know the full story. I don't think anyone will. And it's a bit of a shame, because I feel like I've pretty much bought 2 of the identical games, and it's why this review has not so much been a carbon copy of the sort of thing that I do, and it's because I'd much rather do that for the next one, because otherwise I would have actually done 2 reviews that are pretty much identical word for word and not mentioned any of this stuff here, which I kind of think this stuff's relevant, which is why I've included it here. Because let's just look at this as a standalone game. Let's imagine that this is the only one that exists for now, other than obviously DUX 1.0. DUX 1.5 even. The whole point of that, when it came out, it's tweaked the original formula, but as I say, I've never played DUX 1.0, so I don't know what it's tweaked, and I can't find a list. It's added a few things from what I can gather. I can only imagine that DUX 1 didn't have instant respawn, because I know there's a load of people saying that DUX 1.5 does have it, and they're talking about it as if that's a new feature. So if that was in the original, then I apologise, but instant respawn, the whole point is you die and you come straight back on, as demonstrated right there. So it's pretty much, I think that's one of the only things I could find that was actually new about it. It is your standard side-scrolling shmup. You go left to right, you kill the enemies, you get to the end, and you kill a boss. There's some really nice effects on it with the fact that you might have noticed when I was flying under the waterfall was actually pushing me down. And I think that's quite cool because, I mean, it's very rare that you see in shoot 'em up something affect you in that sort of way. I mean, I always think it stands out when a game does it. So like when either you're flying through and gravity picks up all of a sudden and your ship gets pulled around, or if you're flying in a windy stage and you get blown about. So I always quite like it when they do that. It's got quite an expansive weapons library of things that you can collect. I mean, you've already seen us collecting different things, and one of the cool things you can do is you can actually swap the weapon style up. So you might have noticed I'm now firing missiles up and down instead of just in front of me, because you can do that. There's a pink bar at the bottom, and the pink bar basically, when it fills up, you can then activate a bullet absorption thing, and you absorb bullets better, and it's for points purposes, and it also makes certain sections easier. So it's something that you want to charge up and keep for certain areas, either an area that's just full of bullets, or if you are in some trouble and you need some help, then you can use it then. There's another bar which you might have noticed, and that basically is you can charge your shot up and fire a charge up shot. And you can also fire the pod out that's in front of you, which I'm trying to remember which button I set it to, because I'm now playing as the pad and I have been playing as the arcade stick. But you can fire it out and it can then fly around on its own and can do things, or you can call it back. It's just one of those certain sections you're best off having it in front of you, because that's how you absorb the bullets. So it doesn't so much make you invincible, but it makes you harder to kill. And by getting rid of it, obviously you become more of a target, but it's one of those risk rewards, because by getting rid of it, then it means you've got something else firing it out there as well. Because you don't lose your shot, it just gains one, as you might be able to notice there. It's got a laser of its own. So that's pretty much everything that I can mention about the weapon system and all that. The gameplay is very, very good, and I do really enjoy it. And I think graphically it looks quite nice, albeit very cartoony, which puts some people off, and I think that's why they've redesigned it as Redux, and why maybe they've kept too many things similar or the same. There's also, as you might notice, some collectibles that I can get. I mean, I've been collecting loads of lives, which are just basically other ships. I've got this like shield type thing on the top and the bottom of us, and I had to collect that earlier. There's different coloured blocks, and when you get them, different abilities happen. So I've just got the blue there, and I'm now firing lasers in a pattern, which is rather cool. And the bosses are quite grand and pretty standard bosses, I suppose, for a shoot 'em up. The whole point is they bombard you with fire, and you've just got to find their weak spot, shoot them enough to kill them, and then go on to the next stage, of which I have already mentioned, but I'll say it again. There are 6 overall, so it's not the longest game, but that's not the whole point of shoot 'em ups. The whole point of shoot 'em ups is that you want to play them more and more, get better high scores. So I quite like that this has got a decent score system, especially with learning how to use the bullet absorption thing that you can do, which, to be fair, I don't even know if they call it that. All I know is the bullets fly into me, I absorb them as points and to fill up the pink bar at the bottom, so I'm absorbing them as power. So by using that, it allows me to absorb more. I think if they don't call it a bullet absorption, then I really don't know why, because I can't explain it any clearer myself, and I don't know why they would try to explain it any other way. So that is pretty much all I could say about the game. I mean, it's got an amazing soundtrack, and I see this quite a lot with the indie games, because a lot of times the soundtracks go underappreciated. So I will be leaving you a little bit of the music, and then I'll be moving on to doing my Redux review, which there won't be any ranting or anything, and apologies for that so much came off as ranting. It was just more confusion, whilst at the same time I was trying to generally explain the deal, because at the end of the day, you mightn't know, and maybe you were looking at it and you're thinking, well, the double pack's €50, so I'll get that. And then if you got it, you might be thinking, well, I feel a bit cheated here, because I mean, I've spent €50. I'd have been better off just spending the 35, which is what I think Redux costs, than getting the double pack. And I think DUX 1.5 is about 18. These are all pretty much guesses, because I've noticed whenever I went to their website, Qcast, the developer who does it, the prices seem to change all the time. I mean, I actually pre-ordered the double pack when it was €35. Then when I went there to see if it was on its way, because I'd heard it was coming out soon, and it said February, and then it actually arrived today, so I'm thinking, well, that was a nice little surprise. But when I went there, it was just like, the double pack's now €50? I'm positive I only paid 35 for that. And then I started looking around the rest of the site, and it's just like stuff that I'd bought for much cheaper is now much more expensive. So that was the other reason why I mainly wanted to mention what I've done with about how Redux is a remake of this, and you might be best off just getting that one. It depends on how fond you are of the franchise or the series or anything, because I think there's enough of a difference there to warrant playing through them both, but only if you could get them for a decent price. I mean, as I say, that I bought the two together for pretty much the same price as what the second one would have cost me now, so I'm quite happy and quite okay with that. But if I'd paid the €50, I would be sitting here very, very disappointed and very annoyed and then feeling ripped off, especially if I'd also then bought DUX 1.0. So if you are a fan of DUX 1.0, maybe you should just look at getting Redux. That's basically the whole point of that, and I apologise for going on and on about it, so I am going to shut up now and do some of that music before I end up dying again and losing all my continues. So there we go then. That's been the review. I hope you found it helpful. I don't score the games because that's based purely on opinion, so instead I'll leave you to make your own mind up. So thanks for watching, and if you've got any questions about the game that I didn't answer in the vid or that hasn't been answered in the comments, then feel free to ask and I'll help if I can. Also, if you did find it helpful, don't forget to check out my channel because there's plenty more like this up there, and don't forget to subscribe because there'll be plenty more to come as well. So until next time, this has been Demon212, signing off.